think that there are a number of achievements for the president to cite. I mean, as you talked about, record production level for the United States being the leader of the world. You've got, one super prolific shale play in the Permian Basin that is now bigger than all but two of the OPEC countries' production. So that's a big achievement right there. We're a big oil exporter now, 2.5 million barrels a day, going to places like Europe, going as far as Asia. So our oil is reaching around the world now.
Now, here's the problem. If I've got a lot of stuff over here, but I need it over here, I need something that can get it from there to there. Do you expect to hear more calls for energy infrastructure spending?
Well, I think that's likely because that's the name of the game, is you've got to get the supply to demand, to the center of the market. And what we see in North America in particular is the areas of production are still somewhat bottlenecked. There are a lot of projects that are coming online in 2019 to de-bottleneck those areas and get the supply to market, but it's a gradual process.
All right, you guys do some really unique, interesting stuff. I mean, aerial photographs, you're literally digging into the levels of oil in oil tanks in Houston.
You bet.
Commodities move when there's too much or too little of something. Based on Genscape's work, how are we seeing the level of oil in some of the key hubs like Houston right now?
Sure. Well, you're exactly right. So in a place like Houston, we monitor all of the tanks at all of the terminals. And when we see inventories in Houston decrease, we look at that as a kind of a leading indicator that the price of Houston area oil is liable to rise relative to the baseline price of oil in Cushing, Oklahoma. You see increased consumption both for domestic refining in the Houston area and sales to international buyers through the seaborne market. That's a signal to the market to pull those barrels down from storage in Cushing to the Gulf Coast.
You think we're going to see some of those ships in the port of Houston and Galveston start taking oil back to China? It kind of went to zero for a while, right when the trade fight started to heat up.
That's exactly
Are we seeing renewed exports to China from the U.S.?
We have started to see some early signs of that over the last few weeks and even a month or so. And so you're right, they fell to zero in last September after being at about 500,000 barrels a day. I think that a lot of the participants, especially the buyers in China, were worried about the trade tensions between the two countries. You don't want to be the buyer who has a cargo stuck and get hit with a tariff while your cargo is halfway across the Pacific Ocean. So we have seen a number of these cargoes load in December and maybe even in January on their way to China.
Yeah.
It does indicate that some guys are a little bit less risk averse and willing to take a bet on it.
Obviously, we've been diving into the Venezuela story very deeply, and I've been tracking actually some of the crude oil tankers off the coast of Terminal Jose and Lake Maracaibo.
Sure.
And they're just and these are crude oil ships in Venezuela. They're just sitting there.
We're in a really weird period right now.
What are they doing?
They're waiting for clarification and for instructions. So we're in this weird period between January 28 and April 28, where U.S. persons and entities can purchase and import Venezuelan oil. They just can't pay the seller, which is PDVSA, which is still controlled by the old government.